is it you pray for?
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the 54th episode of Abyssal Musings. My name is Samuel the Infamous. With me is my co-host Lawrence Knight.
What's up, you guys?
Sorry about the delay. I've been having some audio issues. My good mic is not working so great right now, so we are back to using the gaming headset, which the audio quality is not the best, but we'll have to make do. So, but yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's the weekend. Well, I can't say it's been a long week because it hasn't, but it definitely went faster than I thought it was. I mean, this week flew by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of did. It was a little weird how that happens. It's funny actually because you know how when we were young, the old timers would always say like, time was slower when they were younger, and we always were like, no, whatever. And then as we get older, it starts to move faster for us, and I think that's part of the natural order of things. But I don't know. It kind of feels like time is actually not operating like it used to because even kids are noticing it.
Well, I mean, you know what? I mean, maybe, man. As far as time increasing, for me, um, it happened when I hit 21. When I hit 21,
Hmm.
I mean, the time just started flying. I think that the longest year for me was when I was 20. That was the longest year. Before that, it went along, things went along pretty quick. I'd look up and be like, oh, shoot, it's my birthday again.
Hmm.
I hit 20, and it was like, that's when everything just slowed to a crawl. I hit 21, boom, it just flew. I mean, I looked up and I was 25, and
Yeah.
then it just kept going faster.
Yeah, and I thought, same thing happened to me, man. And I always felt like that was just, a perception thing. As you get older, as you get closer to the end of your life, you're more acutely aware of how little time you actually have. And I think there's probably something to that. But it kind of feels like something about the internal clock of the universe sped up or something. I don't know. Um, but we never have as much time as we think we do. And all I know is that it takes me longer and more time to accomplish things that it used to not take me that long to accomplish. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm old and my body doesn't work. I mean, just, menial tasks, little things and all that. It'll take me way longer now than it does. And I don't think it's actually taking me more time. I think that there's actually less time.
Could be.
Um, I mentioned that to my mother and she said something about last days and all that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. So, but let's say hello to the chat real quick. Um,
Okay, hi, chat.
we have Richard L in here saying first. We have Kohai, which by the way, Richard, actually, I posted this link like 2 days ago and Shadow jumped in immediately. So pretty sure it was him. But Kohai Masochist reminding us all to eat something because, she's our den mother. So thank you. See Super Soka in chat. Good to see you, buddy. There's Shadow. Was just on a stream with him not 10 minutes ago. Uh, yeah, yeah. Oh, and there's Beak. Good to see you, Beak. So I kind of wish that StreamYards would translate those YouTube emojis, but it doesn't. It just describes them for some reason. So,
I don't know if I
but
want to
yeah,
say. I don't know if I want to say that's odd or if it's just lazy.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that it probably. Well, I don't know. StreamYards is all kinds of problems. I think I'm going to seriously look into getting Streamlabs up and running and seeing if I can't make that work because from what I understand, it's a more complex program, but you have less issues with like lag and that kind of thing. So, But yeah, welcome everybody in chat to the show. This will be our final show for the month of October, and then we get into November. Um, Larry, what do we have on the agenda?
Well, tonight, as we all know, Halloween's right around the corner, and so tonight is John Carpenter night. So we've got some infamous news, of course, um, and tonight we're gonna go over the John Carpenter's Halloween series, and then we're gonna go over one of my all-time favorite movies, which is a cult classic. It's funny how a lot of the movies that I liked growing up that I just thought made so much money, and I find out that they actually bombed in the theaters. And I found out that this one is one of those movies that bombed in the theaters, but yet became a cult classic afterwards, and that's Big Trouble in Little China.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then we've got um, for those of you who are Batman fans, which I'm sure most of us are. Um, there was a animated movie that came out a few years ago based off of um, a arc in the Batman comic, which is the Long Halloween. So we're gonna go over part one of that tonight, and that will do us. That will be it.
Yep. Super Suka. Happy Halloween to you too, and everybody else in chat. Since I don't know, I might do something late night on Tuesday. We'll see what happens. But one way or the other, if I don't see you guys between now and then, happy Halloween. Shadow, yes, November is on Wednesday. I don't know what to tell you, buddy, but it's yeah. I don't know if you're worried about like no, not November. I mean, I don't know why you would be worried about that, but uh, yeah, it's here. It's getting ready for some pilgrims and for some turkey and some you know things of that nature. We are, however, still in October, so we're gonna continue along with our spookiness, and yeah, should be fun.
That's right. And I think there must be a lot of Halloween parties going on this weekend. If you guys are wondering where our co-host Nomi is, I'm sure she's out somewhere scaring the hell out of children, or doing some other kind of activity that killer robots from the present like to do. This is the one time of the year where she can really let loose and tell people that she'll be back, and actually really show them that she'll be back.
Yep, yep. She's got a life, so it is what it is. I mean, I'm online all the time because this is pretty much what I do outside of work. But yeah, she's got a life, so it is what it is. Real quick, that is only a challenge if you accept it. Doesn't have to be. Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
So yeah, that's a personal choice, and if you want to put yourself through that shit, I mean, by all means, but leave me the hell out of it. But
Um,
yeah, all right. So let's begin, shall we?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's do this. So let's start off with this. We're gonna start with part one of our weekly infamous news. Those of you that have, well, we've all been in trouble at school at some point, right? We've all had to sit down with the teacher and sit in the hallway and sit in the principal's office, or just
Man,
doing whatever we're
I
gonna
had
do. Hmm?
I had my own chair in the principal's office in grade school. It was mine. No one else got to sit in it because I was in there so often.
I just got sent home. At least you got a chair. You're just like, yeah, yeah, your son's suspended for, you get suspended for a couple of weeks. I think a couple of days. I think it was one point I think I got suspended for like a week or two. Like I added up when I was a kid. I added up all the suspensions that I had, at one particular school, and it came up total. It came up to 1 semester. So I kept getting
Hmm.
suspended and still graduated. So, but with that said, I'm sure you guys have heard about this, right? You've heard about this. Teacher and a student soaked in sewage after pipe burst at school.
I heard about it because you told me about it. I hadn't actually seen anything like this come up. So
All right, so let's go ahead and why is this thing? I guess it's not
I
letting
don't
me.
know. StreamYard's just being freaking weird.
Being weird.
I don't know. It could be a New York Post thing too. I don't know.
But as you see, it looks like they recorded it off of
Oh, oh shit! Right behind him. I
yep.
thought it hit him in the face the way you described it. That's
That's a
I
wake
mean,
up
at least
call,
it
right?
did get in their mouths.
I mean, but with an impact like that, it might have, man. I mean, a ricochet, it might have, dude. And I don't, can you imagine? I don't even want to say it. With all those people, all those kids and teachers and people using the restroom, I don't care if that was me. I don't care what anybody says. That's a hospital trip to get whatever
Hey,
shots you
Paul, good to
need.
see you. Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, that little kid looked like he took the brunt of that like pretty hard, but she walked it off, but I think it knocked him over.
Still nasty.
Yeah. So, but yeah, hey Paul, welcome to Abyssal Musings. You might have just missed the sewage burst out of the wall, hit a teacher and a student. It's pretty gross.
He probably
So,
caused it with one of his Hadoukens. Shot one out through the other side.
I'll ask him. I'm going to be on a stream with him later on tonight. So, so. But yeah, why would like so that was just like a freak thing, like the pipe failed in the wall, right?
Yeah, the pipe just failed in the. Let me copy that back up and check it. Because I was so shocked by it that I actually didn't read what caused it to bust. I don't even think they know. Um, so of course this is in Russia.
Are we? Why
So
are we, guys in chat? Like Shadow, why are we arguing about the cactus up your ass? It was a thing that happened. Move on.
uh,
Cactus. Okay, that video is getting renamed.
cat. So yeah, it doesn't even say what caused it. Doesn't even say what caused it. So I mean, just the fact that ugh, ugh. That's all I can
Yeah,
say. Is
I
just
I would probably wager that they probably needed maintenance for some time or something like that. The pipe just probably wore out, or odds are actually it wasn't even like a part of the pipe necessarily. It was probably where a fitting was joined up at.
probably. Be funny if they were doing maintenance on it, and whoever was doing the work on it caused the pipe to caused that whole incident.
Probably not, kid. Probably not. They don't need to do that. They're getting all their shit from the U.S. via Iran. So, but anyway, that aside, that's not really the topic of this show. So, yeah, I don't know why you got to
Look,
show me things like that though.
because
Like,
that goes along with the topic. Infamous news. It- Why would the question is why would I not show you?
Oh, I don't know. Because you hate me just a little bit, just enough.
No,
Make me
no, I don't
suffer.
hate you. I just thought this was funny.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
if that
payback for all
bothers
those
you,
times that I said, no, no, this is payback for all those times that I brought real existential darkness into our talks.
no, no.
Like what you guys might not know is that Larry is, generally speaking, a fairly upbeat and happy person. And I have a tendency to unintentionally shit all over that. So,
Well, I've got a shield and I've got rain gear and stuff on anyway. So whenever he tries to do what just happened to that boy and that teacher, it doesn't really hit me. It might slide off and hit a certain feline YouTuber, but it doesn't hit me.
hmm.
So that's all that matters. Now, our next one, and you guys may have heard about this one. Now, this one isn't well, you can't say it's not gross, but it's one of those things that well, I wouldn't scratch my head. You're not gonna scratch your head, but you're gonna say, really? Dead body turns out to be a very dirty, broken, and overused
Oh,
sex doll. Yeah.
yeah, I heard about this when it happened because everybody was concerned it was some kind of murder victim at first because there was very little information that got out to the press right away. They kind of suppressed quite a bit of that, um, and then it got out and it was just like, yeah, it wasn't a person. Did you see that movie? What was it called? Good Boys, I think. There's
Good
a
boys.
like a bunch of 10-year-olds going on an adventure to replace a broken I think it was one of the kids' dad's drones, and they get involved in like sex and drugs, and there's a sex bot that ends up getting smashed on a highway by a semi and all that, and they thought a lot of people thought it was a real person.
I've never heard of it.
It's okay. It's if you like watching, kids who are way too young to be involved in adult situations, um, then it's a pretty funny movie, but it's not like yeah. I think it's one of Seth Rogen's projects actually. Now that I think about it.
Wait,
It's
is
like
that the one
Superbad
where
if they
they're
were in grade school.
good boys? I think I heard of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched the movie because it does sound familiar. The more I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. But there's a incident involving a sex doll that's very much like, this. It falls out of a car and gets run over and everybody thinks it's a real person, and it's not. It's just a sex doll. They traded to a pervert so they could go buy drugs.
Wow. Well, let's
Yeah.
see. Um, so the quote unquote, so reports of a quote unquote body was dumped in the English woods, and of course, as you just said, they were blown out of proportion. Um, Cops closed off the road for 31 hours. It took them 31 hours as part of efforts to seal the kinky crime scene in the West Midlands village of Kennington, Warwickshire. After someone taking a stroll called authorities to say they had seen limbs sticking out from the undergrowth. Hmm.
So this was in Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah. See I remember seeing that image right there with the road on
Hmm.
it. So
But I mean, come on,
yeah,
31 hours?
right. I like how they do. They say like Kohai brings up a point here. She's like, I missed the part overused. It's like, you know, if you're gonna get a real doll, folks, like clean it up once in a while.
Yeah. That's
Maybe
where
don't share it around at parties.
the disgusting part comes in this case.
Hmm.
That and I'll say it again, 31 hours. I
Yeah.
It should maybe in this town, maybe this is one of those areas where nothing really happens, and so the first time you see something like this, it's like almost like calling the National Guard. They blow it up into a huge thing because it seems like it's exciting. So can you imagine they do all that and they finally get around to pulling out the quote unquote body out and find out that it's been a sex doll. So now now you've wasted 31 hours of manpower and you've just touched this thing. Of course they got gloves and stuff on, but
Hmm.
yeah. And how
We
would
have to
you
operate under the assumption that it's actually a body, and if that's the case, they still have to observe like biohazard protocols. So they were probably okay in terms of having to touch it.
how would they know it was overused?
Well, I'm sure somebody examined it. I don't know. Maybe it was stretched.
I would have left it alone at that point. I mean, to me, maybe they were looking for DNA.
Maybe that's why it took them 31 hours to secure the crime scene, was because they were the reason it was overused.
That's sick.
Yeah,
But you just never know these days, man. You just never know. People are just doing crazy stuff.
man, somebody got arrested in England the other day for having fish porn on his phone, which is apparently against the law.
The guy was
I
watching.
don't know what that means. I don't know what fish porn entails. I don't care to know, but that is the headline. So yeah, I don't know.
Was
Britain's a
like
weird place.
was like was like somebody getting head from a sea bass or something.
I don't know. I didn't inquire that far into it. I was listening to the Full Aussie earlier today from last week, and they were talking about it, and they were asking the same questions you're asking, but there wasn't really that much information to be had. Just that
I
the
mean, when
guy
you
had
say
what
when you say
was.
fish porn,
I mean, my first thought is like, Nature Channel fish doing it, you know, but I
yeah,
imagine it
but
was probably
how,
something
dude?
worse than that. Yeah.
Like how though? I mean, are they stabbing each other with their
I
gills or
don't.
something? Or are they rubbing gills together? Maybe if they're
Fish have
both female
sex.
fish, yeah, they're rubbing gills together.
I don't know. Fish have sex. They do have sex. Like some fish have like actual coitus, and some lay eggs, and then the other sex will come along and fertilize them. But yeah, no, some species of fish do have sex.
I mean, I
But
mean, but really, look, I mean, laying eggs and then waiting for another fish to come along and fertilize. That's not really sex, man. That's almost like phone sex,
I
you know,
said
or
some
like
fish
or
do
like
that.
like talking dirty to each other and then just doing some DIY action.
Yeah, no, no, that's why I said some fish do that. Some fish have sex like other animals do, where they actually copulate. But I imagine it probably was a lot more like the first thing you said with the bass mouth. Um, I don't know. I don't care that much. It's just like it was a weird thing
Dude
that
was
came up.
bending
I
over and
don't know
taking
the
a
details.
swordfish.
Probably not. That would kill
He
him.
was he was playing lightsaber with a swordfish.
Yeah, I don't know. He probably wasn't in it. He was probably just downloading it and looking at it. It probably falls under bestiality laws if if they have those over there. I don't know if they do or not. Europe's a weird place. Some shit's totally legal there that you would think wouldn't be. So,
Well,
Super
maybe
Suka,
maybe
whales do have dicks, but whales are not fish. They are mammals.
maybe
So,
maybe the guy wasn't maybe it wasn't a video of somebody directly interacting with the fish that way. Maybe it was kind of like what you just said earlier. Maybe the guy was coming along and fertilizing the egg and trying to see if he can
mhm.
help the species along. Who knows? Or trying to create something new,
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I don't
like
know.
create a merman or something.
It doesn't matter. Whatever it was degenerate enough for him to do jail time over. So,
I guess.
no. Of course, they'll arrest you for practically anything in Britain these days, as long as you're not of immigrant status. So,
I
for my
guess.
British folks out there, that sucks.
All right, on to our next one for part one of the infamous news. So, you ever been to a wedding and
Have I?
somebody walk in and stop it and try to stop it?
No, I've only ever seen that shit in movies, man, and I've worked hundreds of weddings.
Well,
I've been as a guest. I've been, in the wedding parties. I've had a wedding of my own, and I've worked hundreds of them, and that has never happened.
well, I tell you what, I don't know what in the world is going on in Europe because this next story is also in Europe. It's happened in Bolivia. So this guy, of course, moved on with his life, met a nice lady, and you know, proposed to her. They're at a wedding. They're getting ready to get married. Uh, and apparently, the man had an ex that just couldn't let it go.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Larry.
Yeah. Don't get mad at me. I didn't do it. Let's see. Okay, a bride in Bolivia, white wedding. Well, I mean, of course, don't most brides wear white at the wedding anyway? So she was soiled. So she got smacked by her broom, by her groom's jealous ex. As the newlyweds exited the church, a woman attacked them with a bucket of excrement and oil. Oh man, that sounds like she was about to set them on fire.
It's probably just to, help it stick.
All over the bride's face, hair, and dress, as well as her husband's military uniform. Ooh, that's not good. That lady really lost it. That's crazy. What a crappy start to a marriage. Yes, it is.
Oh, jeez. Can always count on the New York Post for some pithy headlines.
Let's see.
I don't know, man.
Oh yeah, a wedding in Bolivia
Suka's.
quickly went down the toilet after the groom's ex reportedly showed up to the wedding and threw excrement at the newly betrothed after they said "I do." Okay, this
Mm,
person was trying to be funny.
mm-hmm.
Can you imagine this happen? But if you have an ex that you
Well,
couldn't
yeah,
stand,
because I can
I mean,
see it.
yeah, but you know what? Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Let's say somewhere down the line, the guy ends up not getting along with his new bride. What ended up being the worst day of his life, he'll probably look back at it and say, "You know what? That chick deserved it. I just didn't know it yet." And then again, it might happen the other way around. She might say, "Now I understand why that lady threw poop at us. I just wish that it all hit him and not me."
I don't know. I don't know. Suka's right, man. All the stories tonight are gross. Like, what the hell?
Hey, look, don't blame me. I'm just reporting it. It was already out there.
8 billion people in the world, all with stories of their own, and you got to bring the poop.
Hey, somebody's got to. Whoever created the toilets, they made a fortune. I mean, of course, they're no longer living, but their families are probably rolling in dough.
Yep.
I guess this lady took it in stride, but I mean, I wouldn't have been as graceful.
She was mid stride when it happened. She didn't have a choice.
I'd have been looking for that lady. That would have been a fight.
You have to clean the poop out of your eyes first. By the time you do that, she's 2 blocks down the road.
I guess I catch her sooner or later.
Larry chose a theme and went with it. Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But that is it for the infamous news for now. Now we get to the good stuff, the John Carpenter stuff, and we're starting off with Halloween. You ever see the first one?
Oh yeah. Long time ago, but yeah. Halloween is you have to watch Halloween and Halloween Part 2 to back because it's really one movie.
Yeah, doesn't part two like pick up from the hospital?
Immediately after the first one
Yeah,
ends. Yeah. They it the reason they did it like that is because Carpenter wrote a script that was too long for one film. So they split it into two movies. So you really do need to watch both of them to get the whole story.
yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it's been a while since I watched it. But yeah, I have seen it. I actually watched part two before I ever saw part one. I was 10 years old and I was at a friend's birthday party and we were left alone, and that was the movie he decided he wanted to watch. And so, we were a bunch of 10-year-olds watching Michael Myers stalk around the hallway and murder the shit out of people with a hammer.
Uh, did you guys end up regretting that? Because I know I would have.
I mean, yeah, there was some stuff in that got to me. I was 10, but yeah, it was like I'll go back and watch it now, and I think the only part that really gets me, and for some reason this always does, whenever there's like a puddle of blood and somebody doesn't see it, they slip on it. I don't know why, but that always triggers my freaking gag reflex. And it probably has to do with that movie because that's I think the first place I ever saw that happen was in Halloween 2.
Yeah, Halloween 2 was a good one though. Those poor nurses.
Hmm.
He terrorized that dang hospital.
Yep. Yeah. So, but yeah, regarding the first one though, like I'm trying to remember. Like obviously this was one of the movies that really put Jamie Lee Curtis on the map as Laurie Strode. She'd already been kind of crowned the Scream Queen after I think Prom Night
Hmm.
was the first movie she was in. Um, but uh, but her performance as Laurie Strode really kind of put her on the map. And then it also had Donald Pleasance in it as Dr. Loomis, and I don't know. I haven't seen too many movies with Donald Pleasance, but he's always one of those actors that you hear about being like, you know, um, a very well-regarded character actor. You know,
Hmm.
and I couldn't tell you who played Michael. You never see his face. You know.
Well, it's funny that you say that, but he actually came up in the news this morning.
Hmm.
I guess he met up with some fans at some kind of event, like the very first Michael Myers.
Hmm.
I forget his
No.
name, but he actually came out of the shadows. I think it was either today or yesterday.
No. Good for him. Honestly, if I had looked into it, I probably could have figured out who it was and all that stuff. It just I like those movies, but they weren't my go-to, so I just wasn't as attached to the actors and the filmmakers and all that stuff. Aside from John Carpenter, I like most of his movies, even the campy, shitty ones. But the theme that Carpenter wrote for Halloween is one of the most iconic movie themes of all time, and it's extremely simple.
Yep.
You know, um, and that really stands out quite a bit. Most of his themes are very very simple themes, but they tend to be kind of earworms. They stick in your head. They stay with you, especially if you associate them with the movies that they came from, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's the same
but
thing with Escape from L.A. and Escape from New York. You never forget the theme, and that's what I like about John Carpenter. In fact, he actually does like little mini concerts, and he will play the Halloween theme,
mhm.
during those concerts. In fact, there's a YouTube video of him, and I think him and his son actually playing it in front of a
I
live crowd.
I used to have it on a ringtone with a
Me
flip
too.
phone that I had for years.
Yep, me too.
It's like,
It
because
go
it's a
off
cool
in a
theme. It is.
yeah, but it would go off in the store and people would look at me like I was crazy.
Yeah. It's be like, don't worry, you're not in danger till I get my William Shatner mask.
Yeah.
No,
Now,
funny. For those who don't know, the mask that Michael Myers wears is actually a distorted mask of William
William
Shatner.
Shatner.
They
Yeah.
literally went down to a Halloween store and bought that and used it in the movie.
Yep. Wonder how much. Well, shoot, did he even get any money for that?
No, not at all.
And
No,
that's
I
what
don't think
happens.
he ever did.
Yep, that's what happens when you so cheerfully lean out parts of your life like this. Um, just off topic, I remember reading or hearing, I should say, that signature from Stan Lee wasn't worth much money because he was always so willing to sign stuff that there were so many signatures out there that it wasn't really worth anything to collectors. So they were like, man, we could just go to a convention and he'll just sign it on the spot.
Yeah, yeah. Stan Lee was always pretty generous with his fans, though,
Yeah.
too. Suka, haven't seen any of those movies. Well, so a lot of people will tell you that the slasher genre really started with Psycho. There was another movie that came out like the year before that. I can't remember what it's called. That was a little bit more slasher-esque and less psychological thriller than Psycho was. But a lot of people will tell you that it really started with Psycho in 1968. Um, but really, what kicked off the slasher genre was Halloween. Halloween is the reason that we have A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the reason that we have Friday the 13th, which is actually a direct response to Halloween, by the way.
Hmm.
And everything that came after. Michael Myers was like the first slasher icon. First Halloween came out in 1978. And the thing that makes Michael Myers special, right, above all other slasher villains, was not only was he like the first recognizable slasher villain, um, but like Freddy is a dream demon. Jason is an unkillable zombie. Even Leatherface is an inbred hillbilly cannibal. Michael Myers is none of those things. He's just an evil man, but hell bent on killing his family.
Yeah,
You know,
and the diff
he's
and the
he's he's.
well,
Go ahead.
the mystique for Michael too, and the mystique for him was that there was no explanation of how he got as strong as he did, or
Mhm.
how come you could hit this man, you could hit him with a bus and run him over and back over him, and he'll get back up. There was no explanation as to how he gained these abilities until I want to say the Curse of Michael Myers came up with a reason behind that, and
Yeah,
and
they
it didn't work.
retconned it.
Yeah,
No, they
it
did.
did not
They
work.
do give an explanation. Loomis gives an explanation. It's just not satisfactory to your average viewer. They're like, wait, what the fuck? It it's because Michael embodies evil and pure will, right? It's his willpower that keeps him going. I mean,
So
he's
he
as
can't
human as
die
everybody
because
else.
he can't die because he doesn't want to be. So that sounds like there is a Marvel character that there's a Marvel character that's like that. It's I wish I could remember his name, but blonde haired guy. And the funny thing is that he has I don't say mental issues, but he can um he can go into homicidal rages, and he's basically Marvel's answer to Superman, and he can't
Oh,
die.
the Sentry.
Yeah, the Sentry. Yeah, he can't die unless he wants to, unless he decides that it's fine to
Mhm.
die.
Right, but that's the thing about Michael is that like he appears to have superpowers. He doesn't. Like the most obvious glaring thing about that is the there are people who will tell you that Michael Myers can teleport, which is the only thing that makes any logical sense. If you're 2 blocks ahead of the guy and you're running and he's just like doing that slow stalky move and you look back and all of a sudden he's 10 feet behind you kind of shit. Yeah, teleportation makes sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to just be something that instills fear in the audience. Irrational fear. I mean, in this case, it's very rational to be afraid of a guy who, is like Myers, but uh, it's just he was the representative of a concept, but like in canon, he's mortal. He's just as human as everybody else. He's just driven by a will so strong that he can't allow himself to rest until he's achieved his goal, which is, of course, the murder of his sister, Laurie Strode. Because he's already at that point. That was one of the other things about the later movies that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Is all of a sudden he had relatives popping up out of nowhere. In the original Halloween, Laurie Strode, his sister, is the last living relative because he's killed everybody else already. That's why he was locked up in the asylum. That's why he was in Dr. Loomis's care. When he found out that Laurie survived his onslaught, he breaks out and goes after her. And he kills anybody who gets in his way, but they're really not his targets. Only Laurie is.
Yeah, but I also thought too that in between his stalkings of his sister, anybody that was crazy enough to go, to move into his house, he also didn't appreciate that very much either.
Well, I mean, that counts as in his way.
I thought he just didn't like squatters.
I mean, he obviously was clearing out what he thought was an infestation in his home. But yeah, it's always been about Laurie, and later movies like they try to add on to that. And like I said, they bring up new relatives and distant cousins and shit like that just popped up out of nowhere with no explanation. And then when you get to The Curse of Michael Myers, it goes into this whole Celtic druidic thing that makes absolutely no sense and tries to retcon everything, but makes it worse actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, the only good thing about that movie were some of the kills were awesome, but otherwise, yeah, it's
Like
not.
that one
Paul
where he
Rudd was in
finally
that
gets
too.
Jamie Lloyd at the beginning. You can't have the baby, Michael. You can't have the baby. And he was like, "Oh yeah."
Hmm.
And what was that he threw her onto? And then he turned the machine on.
It was a Thresher combine.
Oh, that was a bad. I mean, he must have really. And I mean, if the guy's never been a subtle killer, but for
Mm.
him, that was overkill. That was overkill for him.
Right, and I think they wanted to start that movie with a big shock, which is, I mean, they achieved it. Congratulations, guys. Because these movies have been graphic, but they were always a little understated in the kills. And again, it wasn't so much about, like with Friday the 13th, all of the kills get more and more spectacular as the movies go on. It's almost like Jason's trying to top himself.
Mm,
With Myers, while he will use any available instrument to kill somebody,
mm,
it's almost casual with him. Like he's just doing the thing, and then he moves on. It's not he's not trying to make a splash or a statement. He's just taking out who he thinks needs taken out, and he does it in the most efficient way possible most of the time.
yeah.
And so I think with 6, when they started out that spectacularly, I think they were trying to kind of capitalize on the success of the later Friday the 13th movies, which the Friday the 13th franchise did killer box office numbers, did killer numbers in home studio and in syndication and all that stuff. I mean, it was probably the most successful slasher movie franchise of all time, and it was basically initially a ripoff of Halloween.
Mhm.
And so that it kind of comes around full circle that way. But if you go back and you watch the other movies, it's like, yeah, some of the deaths are gory as shit, but they're not flashy. You know what I mean? There's no panache to them. They're just
It's
he
just
was
quick
in
to
the
the
room.
point. Bam.
Yeah, target was in the room. He had a claw hammer at hand, so the claw hammer goes in the target. That's it. You know. Um, but it's really the relentlessness of the character, the fact that he's mute, not because he can't speak, but because he chooses not to,
Hmm.
right? Which I think when they go into his backstory a little bit, when he was a little kid and he first like went crazy, or they say crazy. I don't think that Michael Myers is insane. I think he's perfectly lucid, and I think Dr. Loomis is correct when he says that Myers is just evil,
Yeah.
and
Makes me wonder too, though, is that all those opportunities that he had to kill Loomis, why didn't he take him? Like, why didn't he let the guy?
Loomis wasn't.
Hmm?
Loomis isn't the target. He's not related to Loomis. Loomis, whenever he stands in Michael's way, he gets dispatched fairly quickly. But that's not always in a lethal way. Obviously, I think eventually it is. I think he does kill Loomis at one point. Probably gets sick of running into the guy, um, but I mean, and you're right. There's some weird shit that happens that they don't really explain. Like there's a scene where Laurie shoots both of Michael's eyes out with a revolver. He should be dead, and yet he shows up again later, not only not dead, but with both of his eyes intact, as far as you can tell, because there's just darkness in there.
Yeah. And see, and two is that if you look at Loomis's explanation of how and why Michael is the way he is, from a clinical standpoint, it makes sense. But then people start pointing stuff like that. It's like, look, man, no amount of willpower in the world is going to outdo two bullets to the eyes. This guy is regenerating. He's he's picking people up with one arm and nail them to the wall. He's putting thumbs through skulls. I mean, maybe some of that is possible, but this guy has been burned. He's I mean, stabbed, all this stuff, and you're gonna tell me that just sheer willpower alone not only kept him alive, but allowed him to just instantly heal himself and regenerate? Hey,
Well, this
and I
is
and I
this.
and I think that's they were trying to answer those questions with Curse of Michael Myers, but again, it didn't work because people were just like, look, it's better to just the mystique was better.
You gotta keep in mind too that Curse of Mike Myers is the sixth Halloween movie, right? If you just take the first two, which are one movie, it begins and it ends, right? There really is no need to bring him back after that. And they were never supposed to. It was supposed to be an anthology series, which is why Halloween 3 Season of the Witch has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Right.
It's a totally
Okay.
different story. Uh,
Right.
but it bombed, and so the studios were like, "Well, let's just bring Michael back." And they're like, "Okay, but he's
Well,
dead."
that's where the money was.
Yeah, so they just brought him back, and they didn't explain why he was back. And that was essentially what happened there. See, with Jason Voorhees, it makes sense to a degree because he's undead. It's very clear that he's undead, right?
Hmm.
With Michael Myers, they never bothered to provide an explanation until the sixth movie, and the explanation they provided was so fucking stupid that it didn't work.
It's like, hey, some druids cast a spell on this little boy, and that's why he can do all the things he can do. I mean, on his face, I can see it, but it opens up a whole bunch of other questions that they had no real answer for.
Right,
So it
and
was
and
like it was like solving one problem with a bigger problem.
yeah, and seeing as how the supernatural was never really a part of that series up until that point, like it was you weren't supposed to know what was keeping him going. You weren't supposed to understand what made him tick. You were just supposed to be fucking terrified because here he comes. And so when they brought that in, that opens up a whole can of worms about like oh well, if he's supernatural, then what else is going on and all this stuff. And it's like they could not provide a satisfactory explanation to that, especially not that late in the game. You know, if they really wanted that to work, they should have left it off at Halloween 2.
Well, I'll tell you what. If Well, of course he's still around. In fact, If I'm not mistaken, I heard rumblings a week ago of
Hey, cool.
another Halloween movie being made. But I can tell you what would fuel him this time to kill is alimony and child support.
Yeah, well, he's not gonna have to worry about that too much longer. He's the kind of guy who would kill his own kid just to make sure that all of his bloodline died.
Yeah.
They don't even explain why he wants all of his family to die, just that those are his main targets. Again, until Halloween 6, which great kills in that movie, but the rest of it's kind of, it's not good. Um, because this all starts when he's a little boy. Like the first rampage he goes on, he's a little boy,
Yeah, he's
and
like
I think they
6, isn't
show
he?
that. Yeah, they show that in a flashback where he goes and he gets a mask and he puts it on and he grabs a knife out of the kitchen and then he goes upstairs and he murders one of his sisters and his parents and all that stuff and uh, and it's all done like through the eyes of the kid. You don't even see the kid's face. It's all done through his POV. The only time you see a reflection of him in a mirror is when he's already got a mask on.
Hmm.
You know, and all that,
The
and
first one
that's just
briefly showed his face.
yeah. I mean, kind of, but it also doesn't really matter what he looks like, you know, um, because like Batman, the mask is his face. It is who he is.
Hmm.
The flesh and blood face underneath doesn't matter. You know, so but he does take it off periodically. I think it was in Halloween 3 or it was Halloween 4, I think, where he was stalking some like random cousins or whatever. He doesn't have it on for quite a bit, but you never see his face. It's always in silhouette or in shadow or some shit like that, or just not visible, um, because he's moving around during the day and blending in. He only puts on the mask when he goes in for the kill, kind of thing. But the rest of the time, because nobody alive except Dr. Loomis and maybe Laurie Strode know what this guy looks like, he could just take the mask off and walk around plain as day. Which I think adds an extra level of terror to him.
Well, he showed his face to Jamie when she was a kid. Because she's like
Yeah,
she asked him, she's like, "Hey, can I see your mask?" And I guess he figured, well, I mean, I'm gonna chop your head off anyway, so I mean, what's the harm in it?
yeah. So I don't know, but that the first Halloween, and Halloween 2 were fantastic movies because it was sort of a primal fear, kind of an embodiment of the fear of the dark and the unknown and the evil that comes with that. I always did like those movies. They were never, like I said, I was never the biggest Halloween fan, but I do appreciate them for what they are, and I do like those movies. The early ones anyway. And to a degree, I like Curse of Michael Myers too. It's a fun movie, but it's not good. Yeah. So, but I did want to shout out. I know I said hello, Clue. Apologies about last night. He accused me apparently in chat of ignoring him in chat. I didn't even
You
see it,
did.
dude. I didn't even see him there because I missed a lot of chat last night because I didn't even get home till like 20 minutes before the show ended.
That's not an excuse.
I think it is. I was listening in on my phone, but I wasn't looking at the screen because we got a bunch of snow and ice, and I was trying not to die while crossing railroad tracks. So I did
You would have
not
been all
ignore
right.
you, Clue.
Oh, just to update for you. So Dr. Loomis, so he died in the Halloween H2O timeline. Uh, he died of a heart attack in front of Michael.
Yeah, because okay, no, that I think I remember that. Now, what happened? Because he had just gotten too old to fight him. Right,
Yeah.
his body failed him. You know,
At that age,
yeah,
it's
which
like,
is
man,
kind of
what were you thinking? You should have been at the police station saying, "Hey, you need to get everybody you got," like they did with Jason when they blew his body into pieces and and dissected him and did all that crap. They had what was it like a big paramilitary unit out there? Was it a National Guard? I can't remember who it
Oh,
was.
you're talking about Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, they knew who he was and where he was at this point. Jason wasn't a secret anymore, and they was I think it was National Guard actually.
'cause that was
That
funny too. They were like, "All right, get him, light him up."
yeah. So, but regarding Loomis, like I get what you're saying there, but going all the way back to the beginning, you got to keep in mind Loomis has been disgraced, right? Because of his theories about Michael not actually being crazy, about him being just pure evil, right? Eh, the term evil, even in the 70s, was already kind of it was looked down upon by the psychiatric community because they don't believe that evil is really a thing. It's all chemical imbalances or some shit like that. And because he was so adamant in his belief about that, but he was supposed to be a pillar of the scientific community, he was ostracized. People didn't fucking look at him the same way anymore. They didn't listen to him because they figured he was a crackpot. And at
Mhm.
this point, like and it did. It destroyed his reputation utterly. And so he took it upon himself to stop Michael because he knew that no one else would. They would just capture him and try to treat him. And he knew that that wasn't going to go. That wasn't going to work. Um, and that's kind of central to Loomis's character. Is the disgrace and all that stuff. So I could see where you're saying he should go to the police at that age and all that stuff. But at that point, he probably believed he was the only one who could stand up to Michael.
At 103 years old, yeah, he
Yeah.
was wrong, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he was obviously wrong, and that's kind of the most depressing part of his whole story arc. Is not only is he locked in a battle with this evil man for the rest of his life, but he fails in the end, and not because Michael beats him, but because time does. Which is kind of that's pretty depressing.
Yeah, that's very
He spent his
depressing.
whole life struggling against real evil, and in the end, he fails. So yeah, it's a sad end to his storyline. Unfortunately, you're right. It is in the H2O timeline though, which is not my favorite.
Yeah, I like it better than Jamie Lee Curtis's version. Uh, but check this out. We can't talk about Halloween without getting some behind the scenes facts. I figured you'd appreciate this.
Yeah, sorry, I was belching a little bit and trying to keep
Oh,
it out
you're
of the
fine.
mic.
Freddy Krueger worked on John Carpenter's original Halloween. I'm pretty sure that just means that Robert Englund was a part of the cast or something.
Mhm.
Oh, he was an assistant.
Uh,
Yeah, he was.
yep.
Yeah. So Robert Englund
Well, that
was. Hmm?
that makes sense because Robert Englund was still like relatively young when Nightmare on Elm Street first happened, and that was in 1984. So that was like 6 years after Halloween.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's been a thing. Suka, yeah, they get confused a lot. You often have to specify which one you're talking about.
Yeah, you do. The face of Michael Myers got paid $250. So Nick Castle, yeah, that's the guy's name.
Mm.
I mean, back then though, $250. That's not bad for one day.
Yeah, that's probably standard day rates at the time.
Still, but even with the rate with as much as a dollar was worth back then, that's no telling how much that translates to today for one day's worth of work.
Well,
Too
sure,
bad.
and he probably would have been paid more. He was probably paid extra rates because he didn't have any speaking lines. So if he had something to say, right, they would have had to pay him like full on
Yeah.
pay for that, and so that would have been more than 250.
So this is whatever. Stuntman Dick Warlock. That's that's the name.
Yeah. By being creepy.
Yeah, by refusing to speak. As Rosenthal continued to ask him who he was and what he was doing, the freakout worked by dressing for the job he wanted. Warlock ended up playing the Shape in Halloween 2.
Mm.
So I guess standing around in the dark.
Yeah, essentially. The shape is another name for Michael Myers. It's tossed around. Like I think that's actually what they called him on set.
Mm. The Shape of Evil, right, Dr. Loomis?
Hmm.
Michael
Essentially,
Myers
yeah.
became Laurie Strode's brother because of writer's block and beer.
That doesn't surprise me.
Since there was never meant to be another movie about Laurie and Michael, Carpenter and Hill had no backstory to pull for Halloween 2. I didn't think there was any more story, and I didn't want to do it again. But I had to write the second movie, and every night I sat there and wrote with a six pack of beer trying to get through this thing. I didn't do a very good job, but that was it. I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Jimmy the paramedic survives in the TV edit of Halloween 2.
He doesn't in a theatrical one.
Yeah. I mean, who really considers the TV versions, the real versions anyway?
Well, you got to keep in mind, like this TV, especially at the time, was usually edited for content as well as time. I mean,
Oh
I know
yeah.
they say that all the time now, but they're full of it. And network TV is not the same as it used to be.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, at that time, yeah, they'd cut out all kinds of stuff. You know, it's funny. I remember watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on. I want to say it was UPN was airing it in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
and they would censor some things and not others, right? Uh, so at the bit where Ted falls down the stairs in a suit of armor, and then
Yeah.
Bill comes down and he sees the other knight like stab him, and he's like, "You killed Ted, you medieval dickweed." Well, they censored weed, but they did not censor dick. So it just came off like, "You killed Ted, you medieval dick."
I guess certain. Ah, I never understood the TV censors. I guess I can understand some things, but I saw more that should have been taken out than what they actually did. But it's whatever, man. I mean, they're gonna edit it because kids have an easier access to it. Something's rated R in the theaters, and you have to recut it once it goes to TV because a kid now, a child there's nobody stopping the child from watching the movie unless their parents, step in and put a stop to it.
Right. Right. Well, parents used to be more vigilant about what their kids watched at the time too. So that's what it is. Um,
Says Jamie Lee Curtis had a secret cameo in Halloween 3. I didn't know that.
uh, I didn't either, but I only saw it once and it wasn't good, so I didn't watch it again. Um, I gotta take care of something real quick. I'll be right back, man.
No problem. Well, let's see. Hill and Carpenter envisioned the original Halloween as the first installment of a holiday-themed series of horror tales, but the popularity of Michael Myers hijacked the idea. Good. After reluctantly agreeing to make Halloween 2 a sequel starring Myers yet again, the writers sought to course correct by leaving Myers out of Halloween 3 entirely and focusing on a completely different plot of magical Halloween costumes. Even though there's no Myers, nor any mention of Laurie Strode, they still found a way for Jamie Lee Curtis to make a sneaky cameo. She voiced a telephone operator as well as the person who announces the town curfew. Huh. So I guess Laurie Strode had two jobs after all. He's taking a piss, Larry. Yeah, maybe Suka. but I don't really need to know that. Uh, so let's go down to number 7. London Bridge is falling down is used in Halloween three's Silver Shamrock commercial because it was free. So I remember that commercial, and I think it's the only part of the movie that I actually liked. Uh, the rest of Halloween 3 for me was torture. I watched it once. I was a kid. There was nothing else on, and I was bored out of my mind. It was the only thing that I could think of. That was just it. And I just thought, oh well, Halloween 3's on. I'll watch it. And it didn't take long for me to realize that was a mistake, and that was time that I can't get back. So, but onwards. The original film is famous for turning a William Shatner mask into one of the most iconic totems of horror film history. And the third film is famous for contorting a children's rhyme into a hypnotic earworm commercial jingle for a silver shamrock. After taking in loads of cash from two films, the third was still not given a healthy production budget, so Hill suggested using London Bridge is Falling Down as a basis for the tune because it was in the public domain. Fortunately, there's a 10-hour version online for everyone to unironically enjoy. Well, I'm not gonna play it because we know how YouTube is. Even though it's free, YouTube is just funny about what you do. Period. So
Mhm.
I'm not gonna put the channel in the jeopardy with that. But I do remember that commercial was creepy. It was the only part of Halloween 3 that I liked.
Yeah. You're not wrong, Suka. I was just trying to be genteel about it.
I figured that's what you was doing, but I
That's
wasn't
what it
gonna
is.
ask.
Well, I thought I could get by, but as it turns out, nope, nope, no, I could not. Something
Mm.
about the cold makes me have to pee more. I think my bladder shrinks.
I accidentally pressed the wrong button.
Yep, I could see that.
It's all good though. Um, it's not like I've never been on TV before, but here you go. Someone called the oh, I wish I'd have been there to see this. Someone called the cops thinking Daniel Harris was really in danger while filming Halloween 4: The Secret of Michael Myers. That's right.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's right. Just like Michael. Uh, which is cool though. I don't really mind. I just, honestly, I'm just too lazy. Most of the time, I don't camo because I'm just too lazy to really just press the button, or I just really don't think about it. So it's whatever for me. Uh, but let's see.
Yeah. Oh, Larry's been on camera before, so
Yeah, it's not new. After a fan revolt demanding Michael Myers return for a fourth installment of Halloween, the story shifted falling from Laurie Strode to focusing on her adolescent daughter, Jamie Lloyd. While shooting a scene where Jamie screams while running down the street, neighbors called the cops and thought Harris was genuinely in danger. Now, here's where I'm lost on this. They had to have seen that there was a film crew there. I mean, this was back in the day, so I mean, there had to be a set nearby. I've lived in neighborhoods where movies were being shot, and it was a set, and there was no mistake that the place that we lived was now one big movie set. So I don't get it.
hmm.
How did they not know? But then again, I mean, maybe it was probably some old person that never goes outside and had no idea the film crew was there.
Yeah, most likely. You know, you got to keep in mind too that the film crew was relatively small.
Yeah.
And they were filming in a real neighborhood, so they had to minimize their presence as much as possible so as not to end up with like the boom guy on in the corner of the screen or whatever. So yeah, they were probably keeping that low key, and they wanted it to look as real as possible, which to the eyes of somebody who's not involved in that, it probably did.
Yeah. Oh well,
It
here this
clearly did.
explains it. Oh, this explains it. I was banging on doors, yelling for someone to help me after I got lost trick or treating or something, as she explained in the 25 Years of Terror documentary. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're hearing a little kid screaming, and someone called the cops. Well, yeah, I would too.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. That'd do it. Mm.
Let's see. Ellie Cornell, who started Halloween Forum, got more money to die in Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Wait a minute.
I don't really even remember that movie. It was like I know I've seen it, but I couldn't tell you much about it.
Jamie's foster sister. Okay, so that's right. She lived. She survived Halloween 4, and then she died at 5.
Yeah, that's a pretty um standard trope in a lot of slasher flicks. So you'll have
Right.
somebody like Tommy Jarvis, right? Survives Friday the 13th Part 4, I think, but he gets killed in 5,
Well, wasn't
right?
he in like
Or
3 of them?
oh, then uh, I'm trying to remember. I don't know, because he wasn't in 6 because that was basically Jason versus Carrie. But I know he was in a few of them, but he ends up getting killed off. And then you had Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street, who is obviously the hero in the first movie. She's not really in the second movie, but she comes back as a mentor
In the
for the
third
Dream
one?
Warriors in the
Yeah.
third one, but she gets killed off in that one. No, so I don't know. It's a bit of a trope there. They did something similar with Kirsty Cotton in the Hellraiser movies.
Mm.
She's obviously the final girl in the first one and the second one. Um,
But she becomes
she only has no, that's in the comics. That's
yeah.
outside of the movies. But in the third one, she only appears in a cameo on a videotape that the main character Joey is watching when she's trying to research the box, and then she doesn't show up again until Part 6, where she reprises her role, but she's made a deal with Pinhead to basically kill her husband for her.
Mm,
Hellseeker is a weird movie. And if I remember right, I think she's already damned in that movie. So
probably.
like canonically with the movies, like the comic books, what you're talking about, where she joins up with Harrowers and she ends up taking over as the new Hell Priest and all that stuff, all of that is outside of movie canon. None of that happened in the movie universe.
Still
So
pretty
it's
cool
almost like
though.
a yeah, no, they were good comics. They were, but it's got next to nothing to do aside from character names and faces and stuff. It really doesn't have much to do with what happened in the series of movies. Of course, by Part 6, they had already started going way off the rails with some random ass shit. Essentially, what they were doing was, uh, in order to maintain the rights to the Hellraiser franchise, the studio that owned them at the time, which I think was Dimension, um, had to make a Hellraiser movie every so often. Well, what they do is they take a script that was completely different, like something else entirely, right? And then they'd sort of shoehorn Pinhead into it and put him on the cover.
And then say this is a new
And
Hellraiser movie.
pretty much, like Part 7 and 8 came out in the same year, straight to DVD, both of them filmed in Romania. Have nothing to do with each other. Pinhead's briefly in both of them, and he's on the cover. Yeah.
Okay. Dominique, I'm not even gonna try to say that last name. Got the Halloween 5 job after throwing the script in the trash.
I think it's Ophélie Girard. She's French.
Oh, it just sounds like some kind of, I don't know, some kind of pill you take.
Oh wait, what? Oh, her name?
Yeah, yeah.
Might be.
Let's see. So instead of donning a Michael Myers mask and creeping everyone out, he decided to insult him instead. So I'm guessing, was he the one walking around? Let's see. He was dressing up by his work. Okay.
It says he's a filmmaker, not necessarily an actor. So he's probably a director. I don't know. I don't know anything about Halloween 5 or the making of or any of that stuff. I barely remember that even watching that movie. I couldn't tell you what happened
Yeah,
in it.
I can't either, man. I don't know why. I remember four, and I know I watched five, but five is the one that
Mhm.
out of all of them, five is the one that always slips me. It always slips my recollection. But if he's a
Mhm.
director or a filmmaker or whatever, that explains him trying to get a job by throwing a script in the trash because that's something that they would do.
No.
Paul Rudd. Oh, that's
Halloween
right.
6.
Paul Rudd was Tommy
Hmm.
Doyle.
Yeah. Yep. This is kind of a trend too. A lot of big names got their start in horror franchises.
Hmm.
Um, Paul Rudd here. You had Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th. You had Johnny Depp in A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, that's kind of a thing. I mean, it is kind of funny that it was the sixth movie in the franchise, but Paul Rudd would have been too young to play that role in 1978. So, but yeah, that's kind of that is kind of a thing. A lot of big name actors got their start playing tiny roles in obscure. Jennifer Aniston's first movie was
Uh-uh. Oh yeah,
Leprechaun.
Leprechaun. Yeah, Leprechaun.
Yeah,
But and she was also on she was on a TV show. I think it was for Mad Magazine. I think it was, yeah, Mad TV.
Jennifer Aniston wasn't the Mad TV cast member.
No, I could have sworn she was.
She might have
Uh,
guest starred on it, but she was never a cast member.
Let me check that.
I watched that show religiously, and they had some cast come and go and all that stuff. But yeah, she was never a regular on there.
I do remember seeing her on at least on one.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, she probably guest starred. So of course, Mad TV was on the air. Like Friends was on the air at the time, so her popularity would have been skyrocketing at that point
yeah,
anyway.
well,
And so yeah,
when I saw her on it, she wasn't on Friends yet. Friends didn't exist yet. And I remember seeing her on Mad TV, and then I saw her in Leprechaun, and the next thing I knew, there was Friends, and she was on it, and
that
that's
can't be
really,
right, man. Because Friends aired before Mad TV did.
I don't know. I could have sworn it was her I saw on Mad TV. I saw her on something
Friends started
before
in
before I saw her on something before Leprechaun. I can't remember what it was, but I could have sworn that she
no,
was on
I
some kind of
I
variety show.
believe you. I believe you that you saw her on a variety show, and it could very well have been Mad TV. But yeah, Friends debuted a year before Mad TV did.
I got that. I'm saying I'm trying to remember what she was on.
Wouldn't have been in Living Color. I think that was on the air at the
No,
time too.
no, no. Well,
Um,
I'll find out at some other point. I'll find out at some other time. Let's see. Danielle Harris got legally emancipated for Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, and then wasn't in it. I mean, she was 17 at that point.
well,
She did. They didn't they didn't want to be hampered with the laws dealing with the 17-year-old actors, so she got emancipated so that she could be on set and work, and then they didn't use her.
That's
Paid out of
I
her
don't
own
know.
pocket to emancipate herself from from her parents, only to have the production lowball her with an offer of $1,000.
I bet that was an awkward Thanksgiving.
Wasn't even enough to cover the legal costs of the emancipation. She turned the offer down, and the part went to J.C. Brandy.
Hmm. See, again, though, it's talking about like I don't know these actors or any like not, a lot of these guys I never saw again. You know, they might have been in other stuff, but I wouldn't recognize them. You know,
Danielle Harris is she's a I think she's done nothing but horror after Halloween though. A lot of independent films. Jamie Lee Curtis came out of a nearly 20-year retirement to make Halloween H2O. I didn't know she was retired before she did that movie.
yeah.
When did H2O come out?
H2O came out.
98. 98. But
Yeah,
she did True Lies also with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Wasn't that in the 90s?
yeah. That was in the 90s. That was 97, 98, somewhere in that same time period. Yeah, it probably she did this one after she did True Lies. Would be my guess. I don't know. I suppose I could just look it up and find out.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. So movies. Do. True Lies came out in 1994. So yeah, it was years before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
She's done stuff since then too. Quite a bit of stuff actually.
right.
You know, like Freaky Friday, she did in '03. Hell, she was in Everything Everywhere All at Once last year.
And she did that TV show Screen Queens, which by the way, the first season of that was really good. I don't know if you ever watched it.
Hmm. No, no, it didn't really seem like it was up my alley.
I enjoyed it. It's just the second one wasn't my cup of tea, but the first one the first one was
Yeah,
it was really good. Um, so yeah. Katie Sackhoff provided Bianca. I'm not gonna pronounce that one. Bianca screams in Halloween Resurrection.
Kajix. No, no, did not know that. I like Katie Sackhoff. She's a good actress.
Yeah, she's a great actress.
She's in some really shitty roles lately, but for some terrible TV shows. But she's a good actress.
Pays the bills, all right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much her attitude too. So,
One of the monkeys is in
one of,
Rob Zombie's Halloween.
I mean, okay,
Yeah, like all right. Rob
yeah,
Zombie tried to fully kill the Halloween franchise. Is that why everybody was pissed off at him?
yep. Because look, I'm going to say this one more time. I know you guys have heard me say this before. Rob Zombie is an excellent music video director. He's a pretty damn good musician and performer. What he is not is a good movie director. He is fucking terrible at that. All of his movies have been garbage, including the Halloween ones.
I
I
can't
mean,
say
I
you're
know there are
wrong.
going to be people who disagree with me on that, but yeah, because I know there are people out there who love like House of a Thousand Corpses or The Devil's Rejects or some shit. I still say those movies are garbage.
Leave it to you to say that with some force. I still say
Yeah,
they're garbage.
I do not like Rob Zombie's movies. I haven't even gone out, like that Monsters movie came out earlier this year, where
Yeah.
he directed and all that shit, and put his wife in once again.
Well, she's in all his stuff.
I know she's not a good actress. Why does he keep hiring her?
Man, I don't know.
I haven't watched that, and I'm not going to, because he's got a bad track record with me as far as directing goes. I just no, not doing it.
Well, let's see. Like
One of my
others.
sisters,
But
sorry, one of my sisters disagrees with me about this. By the way, she loves his movies. She has shitty taste, so I'll say that. If you're listening, you know who I'm talking about.
that's funny. Let's see. Yeah, like others before him, Zombie attempted the franchise tradition of trying to kill the franchise. His original ending for Halloween 2 involved killing off all the main characters. Michael kills Loomis, and the police kill Michael and Laurie when they believe she's going to attack Loomis's body with a knife. That makes no sense. Since it would have stuck the final nail in the coffin, another ending made the final cut, which ended up setting up the sequel that Zombie will go on to make, the 10th in the series. Yeah, yeah, that reinforces your point.
Mm-hmm.
David Gordon Green's Halloween was released on Michael Myers' birthday. Okay. After Zombie tinkered with it, the Halloween franchise lay dormant for almost 10 years. Yeah, because they had to get that rub off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Jamie Lee Curtis cried during the entire filming of 2018's Halloween, but why? Oh, nostalgia. She owes her
Maybe.
early career to the original and has achieved monumental success since. So it's unsurprising that returning yet again to a franchise that was elevated and diminished Laurie Strode would be emotional. Eh,
I think it would probably, if it were me in her place, I would be crying the entire time, because literally 40 years to the year later, I'm still playing the same bitch, still trying to fight the same dude, and still failing.
yeah.
You know?
But but the thing about Curtis's version of Halloween is that it does reinforce what Loomis said about Michael being human like us, because the man aged. Like you
Yeah.
see him a lot without his mask off, but your back is to you. But you can tell he's old. He's got gray hair. The whole nine.
Mhm.
So that reinforces his theory
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you know that this is a human man that's just hell bent on doing certain things, but he's still aging. He's still getting older.
Yeah. I mean, he was always aging. Like, he starts out as a little boy. You know, you got to figure by the time, so he's an adult in the first Halloween movie, but he started his spree like 20 years before that. Well, before he got put in an asylum, he was in an asylum for 10 or 20 years. I forget which. Uh, didn't say a word, didn't cause any trouble, and then he found out Laurie was still alive, and that day he broke out. But and that's where the movie picks up. The first movie picks up, and he's already an adult at that point, so he would have been in his 20s or something like that at that point. Which means that if um, Curtis's trilogy follows the timeline, he'd be pushing 60 if he's not over already
Mm.
by the time he gets there.
No one is legally allowed to kill Michael Myers. Now, what's the source of his invisibility? Turns out it's a stellar contract lawyer.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that'll do it. So, and that's that goes back to what I said earlier, man. Is that it's essentially the studios just deciding to do things without figuring out how to make it work. It's like, oh, he's just back now. Don't worry about it. We'll hang a lantern on it. It'll
Yeah,
be fine.
suspension of disbelief. Shut up, sit down, and watch the movie. Oh, and don't forget to go buy
Mhm.
some popcorn.
Yeah, pretty much. Because Michael Myers sells tickets, so, or at least this, in theory, sells tickets, and so they figured that'd be enough without having to actually go back and make everything make sense. Because honestly, he dies in two. Dies in Halloween 2. That's it. That's the end of his story. He fails to kill Laurie. Loomis survives. All that other stuff we discussed, that all happens later in movies that were basically tacked together and slapped on to the franchise. You know. But the original two were something special, and they started a trend in this country in terms of horror movies that, I mean, we're still seeing new slasher flicks to this day. I'm not going to pretend that they're, you know, on the same level. I don't think that they are. They got bigger budgets and flashier, directors and all that shit, but they're, I wouldn't say quality wise they're on the same level at all. But we are still getting new ones, like those. Was it Purifier? It's about the fucking clown,
Hmm.
kind of stuff. Those are
Yeah, the
newer
Terrifier.
slasher movies. Terrifier, that's it. Um, as
You
far as I
talk
can
about
tell, though,
some prolific kills, man. That
this
guy.
as far as I can tell, the sole purpose of those movies is to gross people out.
Yeah.
There's yeah, and that's one of the things you got to give Carpenter when he did Halloween. I mean, it obviously turned into something that he didn't expect it to, and all that stuff. But it wasn't just like, oh, here's gross kills in your face. Yeah, they had those, but that's like, it was kind of thought provoking. Like, what is Michael Myers? What is the nature of this person? Like there was some genuine substance, I think, to it.
Hmm.
That there really hasn't been matched that much. I think the Nightmare on Elm Street got close a few times, particularly with the last installment, Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Hmm.
That's a hell of a movie.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's,
I love that movie, and it was like even now it scares me to watch it,
mhm.
and that's
Yeah,
hard to do.
it's very good, and it got into some really interesting meta concepts that like it was nice to see that they were coming up with new ideas, and not just like random bullshit ideas, but like good ideas for where to go with it. And I think that they got kind of close to you know yes, it's a slasher flick, but it had that kind of thought-provoking substance to it as well, and that's something that's a rare thing. There's not a lot of cheaply made horror movies, especially slasher franchises, that do that. I mean, you know, Friday the 13th is fun, but it's as deep as it gets. Is like, don't have premarital sex and don't do drugs, especially when you're supposed to be a camp counselor, because then, bad things will happen to you. That's it. That's like as deep as it gets, you know. And when you get to like Jason X, where he's in fucking space, man, it's even less deep than that. You know? It's a fun movie, but it is retarded.
Yeah, it is. It is.
No, but I think Halloween was really where it was at. And then later, Nightmare on Elm Street did some stuff that was very cool as well. Scream came along, which, of course, for those of you who don't know, was invented and created and all that by the same guy who created the Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven.
Wes Craven.
And he created he kind of did the impossible. He created a successful, genuine slasher flick, while at the same time skewering every trope about slasher flicks,
Yeah, he
including
did.
his own movies. And the first Scream is a brilliant fucking movie. It really is. They get pretty silly after like the second one, but the first one is a very good. It's a satire, but it also manages to hold up on its own as a successful and fairly serious slasher flick of its own.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but none of that would have happened without John Carpenter and Halloween.
True. True that. True that. I miss, John Carpenter and Wes Craven, man. Those two will always be my favorites. I think if I have to pick between the two, um, Damn, that's a hard one. I'm leaning towards Carpenter though.
I think like Wes Craven is a horror director. He's always been a horror director,
Hmm.
and some of the movies that he's done that were really really good outside of Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, Nightmare is his own creation and all that stuff, and it gets really imaginative, but it kind of stays in its lane at the same time. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Whereas some of the other movies that he's done, like People Under the Stairs, for example, or one of my favorites, The Serpent and the Rainbow,
I
which
remember that
is,
movie.
yeah, it's based on a dude's memoirs of something that actually happened to him.
Yeah, while he was high, right? He was like, wasn't he like
Oh,
backpacking or something like that, and he got high on
no.
drugs?
He was sent to Haiti to investigate
That's right.
the scopolamine, which is
Scopolamine.
called the
Yeah.
zombie drug, because of its anesthetic properties, because of what
Right.
that could mean for medicine in general. And he gets embroiled in the voodoo underworld of Haiti. I mean, it's a dark fucking flick, but it's
Yeah,
really
it is.
good. But that was something that was based on something else. Somebody else wrote it down first. It wasn't his own thing. John Carpenter, while he will adapt things, most of his stuff comes from his own brain, and he gets wildly imaginative, low budget or not. Like Escape from New York, all him, right? Um, Prince of Darkness, all him. I mean, inspired by Lovecraft, but still all him. You know, the other two parts of the Apocalypse trilogy, the thing is a remake. In the Mouth of Madness, though, was basically he wanted to do a Lovecraft adaptation at the Mountains of Madness, and the studio told him no. So he made this instead, and it's fucking wildly imaginative. It's very cool. Starman. Did you ever see Starman?
Years ago.
Yeah, with Jeff Bridges. Good, really good movie, and surprisingly not that campy.
Hmm.
And it wasn't a very dark movie either. It was actually pretty uplifting. Um, but it's basically a better ET if you ask me.
Well, Starman was an
So,
excellent movie. So,
mhm.
and I
Yeah,
won't I won't disagree.
yeah, and I mean, getting to Big Trouble in Little China. Big Trouble in Little China is one of the most batshit insane films you will ever see.
Yeah, but I love that
It's
movie though.
yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm getting at is like Carpenter has a level of creativity that he could never get the budgets to match his ideas. So he did the best he could, and he made some of the wildest, campiest, most fun shit ever. Yeah.
And that's the thing though. I mean, for especially even now, it's so well done, even by today's standards.
Mhm.
Big Trouble in Little China is so well done. It is.
Hey, Richard. Yeah, Starman is my mom's favorite movie. One of her favorite movies of all time. She loves that movie, and she has a little trouble reconciling it with the fact that John Carpenter also did The Thing and Halloween and did the Madness and Ghosts of Mars and all of these like horrific fucking films, because it's so I want to use the word touching here because it is. It's very heartfelt,
Mm.
you know, um, and all that. But yeah, that it's Carpenter is a he's one of those directors that you kind of wish the studios had believed in.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they're believing in him now, but the damage is done, right? But
Hmm.
but like I said, regardless of that, the man is an outstanding director in my opinion. I have the utmost respect for him, and it all started with I know he did the Halloween movies, but Big Trouble in Little China was the first Carpenter movie that I ever saw.
Really,
Yeah,
hmm. That's a interesting place to start.
Well, you know what? It was my now ex stepfather. He had it on Laserdisc.
Nice. I miss Laserdisc. You could cut a man's head off with one of those.
Yep. But yeah, that was how that was my introduction to hell, and also too, fun fact, it was also my introduction to Star Wars. He had it on Laserdisc.
Yep, me too, actually. I was too young to go see any of those in the theater, but I did grow up watching them on VHS and Betamax and Laserdisc. You know, and the Laserdisc was a fucking fantastic presentation with surround sound.
Mm,
You know how people are always saying that vinyl always sounds better than cassette because it
yeah.
does. Laserdisc better than pretty much anything that before or since, in my opinion. You know, I mean, yeah, we've got all these like you know, high definition, like, you know, highly compressed, you know, DVDs, Blu-rays, that sort of thing, 4K discs, and the technology keeps getting better in terms of storage, but I don't think that the quality has really improved much since Laserdisc. I think that was pretty much the peak.
Mm,
Yep, big screen. Yeah, damn right, and twice as heavy.
yep. Oh
Those
man,
old
yeah,
tube
that was
televisions.
the worst thing that was to have one of those suckers fall on you.
You weren't gonna survive that.
No, heck no, you're not gonna survive that.
Yeah. No, it's Laserdisc is awesome, but yeah, so really though Big Trouble in Little China was your first Carpenter movie. That is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the I mean, I know Lopan was the central villain, but Lopan himself was not my favorite character. Believe it or not, my favorite character, besides Jack, like the good guys, Jack was my favorite, right?
Hmm.
When I was a kid. Um, today it would be Wan Chi, you know. But
Hmm.
my favorite my favorite character on there besides Jack Burton was Thunder, one of the storms, the strong one.
You know, there's a theory that I think that Ed Boon has tacitly agreed with, that Thunder is almost the entire inspiration for the character of Raiden in Mortal Kombat.
You know, if you think about it, I mean, he pretty much Raiden is all three of them. If you really
Hmm.
think about it, in fact, I remember growing up in school, there was always debates, and it didn't matter which school I went to, but people always thought that lightning was actually Raiden, and there was a whole thing where people would. One of my friends used to say, when they first appeared in that alley, you could hear Ray. If you listen close enough, you could hear the name Raiden be said when he descends down on that rod of lightning, but
Hmm.
which isn't there. So I don't know if my friend was just trying to pull my leg, or if he was just repeating something he was heard, because by then I saw it, seen it so many times, and I was like, no, there's nothing said when the guy comes down out of the sky on the light on that lightning, hold on to that lightning bolt.
Hmm.
Nothing.
Well, you know, I think there's something to it though with those guys being the inspiration for Raiden, because like all of the other characters in the first Mortal Kombat, all of them are based on somebody. You know, like you know, the two ninjas, so Scorpion and Sub Zero, three if you include Reptile, who is unlockable in the first game. Um, but they were all kind of based on like generic ninja movies, like American Ninja 3, you know,
Hmm.
sort of shit. But aesthetically, at the very least, Johnny Cage is a caricature of Jean Claude Van Damme.
Mm.
You know, Liu Kang is Bruce Lee.
Hmm.
You know, I'm not sure who Kung Lao is, but I'm sure probably was inspired by some character in Hong Kong cinema. Sonya, I'm pretty sure was inspired at least in part by Cynthia Rothrock.
Hmm.
you know. But most of them had like real world counterparts, whereas like Raiden's a god, right? So they had to dig a little deeper for that. And I from what I understand, Ed Boon was a big fan of those movies at the time.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's probably. I think the Raiden thing holds water. I don't think he's ever outright said it, but he's certainly not he's certainly not disavowed the idea.
Right. So who was your favorite character?
Oh, Jack, hands down,
He
Jack
really
Burton.
does make that movie though.
Yeah, Kurt Russell is fucking fantastic in that movie, and the best part is that Jack is the sidekick, and he doesn't even know it.
Yeah, it's true. That's true because
It's not his story.
it's Wan Chi's
Yeah,
what does he call that a hero's journey.
yeah, yeah, and Wachi is the hero of the story. If you go back and you watch it, and like through that lens, you'll see very clearly that. I mean, Jack gets lucky a few times, and most of the time he's just spouting off quips and getting his ass kicked.
Yep.
Yeah, you know.
Or doing something and being too late, like when he,
Hmm.
like when he jumped out of nowhere and still had his gun in his hand with no bullets and his knife, and Wan Chi had already dispatched all the bad guys.
Hmm.
He's laughing at him.
Yeah, that's but that's one of the reasons I like him is because he's so completely lovable and he's so into trying to help his friends out. And he thinks he's the hero of the story, but he's not. He's the sidekick. He's the side character. He's a comic relief. You know. And yeah, he gets a couple of lucky shots in here and there, but that's really all it is luck.
Yeah.
And I love that character. He's fantastic. You know,
And the
well
thing he
written.
didn't, and the thing he didn't want to, he tried to talk John Carpenter into picking somebody else on the role because he had been in a string of box office bombs, and so he didn't have confidence in his ability. Now, like I said earlier, now this movie ended up bombing, but I mean, how much has it made after that? You know?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I've got a digital copy of it on my fucking PlayStation, man.
Yeah.
I bought that. I have physical copies of this movie. I bought that so that I could just, have it whenever instead of having to go carry around something with me in addition to because I use my PS4 as a almost a total entertainment center, you know.
Hmm.
And so I've got a bunch of movies on the hard drive. It's the back when you could get movies on PSN instead of having to buy fucking streaming services, which is retarded. Fucking
Hmm.
pisses me off. But you used to be able to buy movies individually and download them, and now it's digital stuff. This is one of the reasons that I prefer physical currency and why you should preserve your physical media is because technically what I purchased was a license to use that if they decide at any time that they want to just strip that away. I mean, the fucking movies on there don't even work unless I'm connected online, you know. Um, so yeah, it is what it is, but it's the convenience of it was nice because then I could just watch it, and I come home, turn the PS4 on, and boom, there it is. Several of my favorite movies are on there that I have physical copies for, like See No Evil, Hear No Evil, or Silver Streak, which are my two favorite fucking comedies of all time. Uh, you know, but yeah, the Big Trouble in Little China is definitely on there. That might have been one of the last ones I got before PSN stopped doing movies. Actually, now that I think about it, it was that one or it was Psycho Goreman.
Hmm.
If you haven't seen that, folks, you need to go see Psycho Goreman. It's ridiculous fun.
I've never seen it.
It's uh it's goofy and horrifying all at the same time. Basically, there's the bad guy who is one of the main characters is this all powerful evil entity, all consuming. Like he eats worlds of people, um, and he's captured by the good guys of the universe who aren't that good, and imprisoned because they can't kill him because he's immortal. and he ends up getting found in the backyard of this little brother and sister. They dig him up, and they find the gem that allows them to control him. And he's basically a cosmic evil entity who's really pissed off that he can't do anything except what the little girl tells him to do. A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it gets like he comes from the planet Gygax, which is of course named after Gary Gygax, the creator of D&D.
Mm.
You know, it's a fun movie. I liked it quite a bit. Beak says I love Silver Streak. Me too, buddy. I love that fucking movie so much. Also, Gene Wilder does blackface in it. Oh no, blackface.
There's only one person that I really that really bothers me when they did it, and that's a man with the initials J and T.
Yeah, little Castro. Hey Clifton, welcome. Yep. But I guess we kind of got off on a little tangent there. Where we were talking about Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, look, I mean, we're just two guys having a discussion, so I'm not worried
Yeah.
about it. But no, and honestly, it all fits in, man. I mean, Halloween's coming up, and so I definitely want to have we've got some topics, but at the same time, it's also good to hear about other movies and things. I mean, you're saying stuff that I didn't even know about these movies. I had no idea. I
I watch
forgot
a lot
completely.
of movies.
Yeah, I had completely forgotten about the Terrifier, and but then again, I've seen some clips and some scenes, and I'm like, do I really want to watch that? But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, Big Trouble in Little China, man. Thunder was my favorite, man. He just, I mean, I liked how he was, how his personality wise. I mean, Lightning had no kind of personality whatsoever. And in fact, I think I mean, he grunted and everything, but he was the only one of the three that never actually spoke,
Hmm.
you know? Um, but Thunder was cool. He had the suit on. He was, he was, I mean, he was intimidating. Like when he talked and said things, you believed him. The other one, Rain. I mean, he said whatever, but I wasn't intimidated by him. I wasn't then, and I'm not today. There's no, I look at him and I'm like, okay, I know this guy has a skill and all this stuff, but I can still whoop him. I couldn't say that about Thunder.
Hmm. Yeah, they were pretty intimidating characters.
Yeah. But the funny thing about Lightning is if I was him like today, I wouldn't be so open to showing people that I can do that because with the push for electric vehicles and everything, somebody's gonna hook him up to an electrical grid and never let him out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's essentially what happened to the Flash in Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Mm.
He was powering the entire eastern seaboard on a treadmill. The government locked him up, wouldn't let him out. Of course, the government, of course, was being run at this point by Brainiac and Lex Luthor, who were hiding behind a hologram that looked a lot like Ronald Reagan.
Guess they're making a point.
Yeah, well, Frank Miller wrote it. He hated Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that explains it.
Yeah,
There's the architect of the point.
yeah, but yeah, no, like all of the Justice Leaguers were either shut down or captured or co-opted. Like Superman was working for the government because Brainiac had Candor and was threatening to wipe out what little remained of the Kryptonian species if Superman didn't do what they told him to.
Hmm.
Um, Plastic Man was contained because that's all you can do with him. Immensely powerful dude. Um, the Atom had retreated into the subatomic world and was living like freaking, Tarzan. among like paramecia and shit. Green Lantern had left Earth
Hmm.
and not come back. Wonder Woman had uh, gone back to Themyscira and abandoned the world of men. You know, the only one who was standing up to the authoritarians was Batman. No, and he starts a revolution. Well, and Green Arrow, who had lost an arm, fighting the man. But yeah, that's a good story. Anyway, yeah, but that's essentially what happened with the Flash. Is they plugged him into the power grid. He was generating electricity, cheap electricity for everybody. So again, bit of a tangent there.
No, you're good. You're good. We are approaching the 2 hour mark. It doesn't look like we're gonna get to everything today, um, but um, that's fine. I mean, the long Halloween. The good thing about that is that despite its name, it can. I mean, it's it's over the span of a year, if I'm not mistaken.
It
Uh,
is, and it begins and ends with Halloween. That's why it's called the Long Halloween. It takes place over an entire year, and each time there's um, is it's about Batman trying to find a killer, and every time that the killer does his thing, it's on a holiday. It's holiday themed. So it's not just Halloween. Like there's one for St. Patrick's Day, one for Valentine's Day, one for Easter. Christmas. Thanksgiving
right,
and all that. So it's called the Long Halloween because it begins and ends on Halloween.
right. Yeah, so we can go over that last next week. As for the rest of the news, trust me, you don't want to see it unless you want to see well, not necessarily visuals, but for example, a woman claims she accidentally performed a quote sex act on her own father while at a bachelorette party.
Nope, nope. Skipping past that. Nope.
Yeah, this was in Amsterdam, so I'm pretty sure you know where she was.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
don't.
then we had the bear scratching himself on the tree. But and that was pretty much it. But yeah, we can carry on. We'll carry Batman over next week, and also here's something else that I'm gonna put on for next week. Phantasm, the Phantasm series. I'm sure you've
God, I
watched that.
haven't watched. Yeah, but I was a kid, man. I don't remember them very well. I remember certain like the spheres, and I remember the
Hmm.
tall man a little bit, but the spheres mostly. I don't even remember. I think it had something to do with fucking parallel worlds and timelines and shit too. It got
It did.
weird.
It
Yeah.
did. And and I didn't find out until today exactly who and what the tall man was, because I used to wonder,
Mhm.
how the hell is this guy doing all this stuff? He's old and this and that. But I actually found the answer earlier today.
Yeah, I
So
have to go back and read or go back and watch those movies again because I don't remember much about it. Because if I remember right, the tall man isn't even human. He's from some other place,
yeah.
and but he always comes off as this like creepy, lanky ass funeral director.
Hmm.
You know, so and the spheres were like the scariest part, and because they would hunt you down and kill you,
Hmm.
kind of thing. But I honestly I couldn't tell you much more about him than that because I have not watched them in a very long time. I
Oh,
don't
no
think I've
problem.
even seen all of them. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah. The last one came out in 2018 before Angus Shrim before he passed away. So, but yeah, I think there's so much material on it, and I've seen the movies. Not all of them, but I've seen enough of them, and I was kind of looking through today, and I was like, you know what, this will be a good topic for next week. So yeah, next week, guys, we will have the Long Halloween Part One. Um, I'll probably add on Part Two to that, and we'll break them up, and we'll put Phantasm in between.
sure thing, sure thing. Beak. I thought we agreed we were going to skip past that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to know how that happens. I don't want to know why that happens. I don't want to know anything about that. I've had like, I met Lethal Lightning last week on a panel, and fun dude, but that guy says some shit that I can't get behind. Like phrases like twincest is wincest.
What?
Yeah, he's talking about Luke and Leia.
Dude, they weren't even. Man, you know what? I didn't. I had a friend, and he liked Star Wars as much as I did, and he would want to play Star Wars, and I'd be like, okay, fine, I'll be Han Solo because Han Solo is my favorite Star Wars character. Well, he wanted to retcon the whole thing and make it so that Luke and and the princess were involved because the next his neighbor um neighbor had a daughter and they were friends and he liked her, and so she would be Leia, and so he wanted to make it so that the two of them were together instead of Han Solo. Like, and I didn't care. I remember I didn't care because I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. You like this girl, and you want to retcon Star Wars to make it so that Luke and Leia are
Yeah.
just so he could be with this girl for like, without her realizing it. There you go. but we
Oh,
will,
God
but we
damn
will,
it.
but we won't go through that. I won't do that to you.
I mean, I could just leave. You can go ahead and talk about it all you want. I'm gonna go somewhere else.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's not something that I want to read about. Um, but yeah, with that said, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Um, don't forget about screaming into the void, and then we have the Sunday Star Trek show.
Yep. Yep. We will actually have guests on both of those this week. We'll have Left Eye Ego will be joining us for about an hour tomorrow on Screaming into the Void, and we also have DJ Access returning to guest on Star Trek Engage on Sunday. So we've got some other guests coming up. I think we have Admiral Teague for Star Trek Engage the following Sunday, and it looks like Duke Devil 95 will be rejoining us in episodes after that. Some other people we're talking to, so should be a good time, you know.
Good.
So, but yep. So we have yeah. Oh, and Screaming into the Wood tomorrow. We're going to be getting into the do's and don'ts, and mostly the don'ts of Ouija boards. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Richard L. Okay, so essentially what happened was um, Ryan Legion Talk and I had decided that we were going to review season 3 of Star Trek Picard, which came out last year. And we got our buddy Horny Alf, who had also seen it, to come in, and I didn't realize right away that Ryan hadn't actually watched it yet, so he was seeing it for the first time as we went through it. And as we got towards the end of that season, we were just kind of like, hey, you want to just keep doing this? And so we decided to go all the way back to the original series and continue from there. Right now, we're coming up on episode 13 of season 1 of the original series of Star Trek. The plan is to go through TOS, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and eventually Enterprise, and we'll probably end after that. But that's like 14 years down the road at the pace we're going, one episode a week. But basically, we watch the episode, we review it, we discuss it. We also make a lot of bad jokes in very, very poor taste, and it's mostly about hanging out and sharing something that we all love and having a good time. So that's essentially it. We do make fun of the show, but we also talk seriously about it, and we make fun of each other quite a bit.
Mhm.
Hell, we call our guests Wesley so we can tell them to shut up. I mean, that's the whole joke. It's like,
Shut up,
shut up,
Wesley.
Wesley.
When they should have been listening to him.
Yeah. So yeah, right now, yeah, kind of like a MSTK 3000, except that we do get into serious discussion about it as well. because we're all fans. Thing is Ryan hasn't seen any of this, so he's kind of coming through at it with fresh eyes. So that's been kind of interesting. But yeah, we kind of do that with it. And yeah, right now we're doing the original series. We're still in season 1. We just finished up with the Menagerie Part 2 this last week, and we're doing the Conscience of the King, I think, this Sunday. So yeah, if you like that stuff, thing is you got to remember that we tend to get blocked about 20 minutes after we end those streams. So if you miss it on the live, it should be back up about 48 hours after that. No, depending on how the dispute goes. So there are a few episodes missing from my library because they are still blocked, and I am still in the process of dealing with that. But it is what it is. So, oh, we talk about Yeoman Rand all the time. Yeah, Janice Rand. We talk about her every time she's on the show. So, but yeah. All right. Now that I've basically explained all of that, I think I've got that. I hope I was clear about it.
Yeah,
It
you're
kind of
good.
feels like I was rambling.
No, you're good.
So, but yeah, Larry, do you have anything coming up that you want to tell the good people about?
Oh yeah. So got some stuff settled out. As you guys know, I've been just been handling some life duties and selling my home and getting things packed up to move. Um, but as I keep saying, the content is coming. I'm still writing stuff. I am working on some things, and like I said, just stay tuned. I am looking at putting something out next sometime in the upcoming week as a test. We'll see how it goes.
Good deal. Good deal. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
As for myself, we just talked about everything I've got coming up. In about an hour, I will be on Beelzehub for Beelzepub with some other folks. Devil Made Me Do It, Kenzo UK, Ryan Reaper, and Paul Hadouken's show, which they do late night on Fridays. So I'll be over there with them. And there's another guest, and I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. I think it's Kami Mark. So, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, yeah, in about an hour I'll be over there. So if you guys want to go check that out, absolutely feel free. Give Devil some love. He does some good stuff on his channel. A lot of fun. So, no, Richard, we're not actually drinking. It's just kind of a euphemism for people talking in the middle of the night about bullshit. It gets pretty racy. Yeah, it gets. This is the show that I heard the phrase "twincest is wincest" on. So, just saying. But that said, I think we're probably ready to get out of here for the night.
Yep.
Don't forget to check us out for Screaming Into the Void tomorrow. You can also find both of us on Exiled Lioness 2. She's recently rebranded the channel name. Same channel, she just changed the name up. So yeah, you can find us both there. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to my awesome co-host Larry. You guys have no idea how much work he puts into this shit. So really appreciate that. Thank you to the mods, Kohai. You're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Everybody else, yeah, have a great night. Thanks for coming, and remember, it could always be worse. Could be raining flame. I don't know. Fuck, I just tripped over my words. Never mind. We're ending the show. Have a great night.
What is it you pray for?